Today we explore the link between the Rings of Power and the Palantiri, said to have been wrought by Feanor himself. Although the rings possess many abilities, could the powers crafted into the Palantiri have inspired Sauron and Celebrimbor into imbuing similar properties into the Rings of Power, allowing them to act as mini Palantiri of their own? Join me as we examine one crucial factor in the effectiveness of this power and determine whether this power could ultimately have led to the Dark Lord's downfall. The Palantiri, often referred to as seeing stones, were ancient, powerful artifacts with the ability to connect those who wielded them. When a master gazed into one of these stones, they were able not only to communicate with anyone looking into another stone, but also to witness events unfolding across vast distances. As Gandalf explained to Pippin, the Palantiri were most likely crafted in Valinor by Feanor, the greatest of the elven smiths. When Númenor met its downfall, Elendil, the leader of the faithful, fled to Middle-earth, bringing with him 7 of the Palantiri. Upon the founding of the realms in exile in 3320 of the Second Age, these stones were distributed to key locations across the newly established kingdoms of Arnor and Gondor. Elendil himself kept 3 in Arnor, while 4 were entrusted to his sons in Gondor. Their primary use was for mental communication, also known as Osanwe, which allowed rulers and their appointed wardens to share thoughts and visions across far distances. In addition, the stones allowed individuals of great strength and will to observe nearly any corner of the world. They were invaluable for surveying the lands of their respective realms and monitoring the movements of their enemies, providing an unseen advantage in the protection of their people. Gandalf even hinted that the Palantiri could see through time when he told Pippin that he desired to use it to perceive the unimaginable hand and mind of Feanor at their work, while both the White Tree and the Golden were still in bloom. It is important to note that Osanwe was a skill only available to those in Middle-earth who had minds capable of mastering it, and it was mostly used by elves and Maiar in close proximity to one another. In the concluding moments of the Return of the King, we witness a remarkable telepathic exchange that underscores the vast potential of mental communication, suggesting that many beings possess this powerful skill. Soon Celeborn and Galadriel and their folk would turn eastward and so pass by the Redhorn Gate and down the Dimril Stair to the Silver Lode and to their own country. They had journeyed thus far by the west ways, for they had much to speak of with Elrond and with Gandalf, and here they lingered still in converse with their friends. Often long after the hobbits were wrapped in sleep, they would sit together under the stars, recalling the ages that were gone and all their joys and labours in the world, or holding counsel concerning the days to come. If any wanderer had chanced to pass, little would he have seen or heard, and it would have seemed to him only that he saw grey figures, carved in stone, memorials of forgotten things now lost in unpeopled lands. For they did not move or speak with mouth, looking from mind to mind, and only their shining eyes stirred and kindled as their thoughts went to and fro. It is apparent from this that Osanwe is a learned skill. Elves such as Celeborn, who do not bear rings of their own, have mastered it, but Legolas, a young elf, never displayed any telepathic ability during his time with the Fellowship. One of the first instances where we see Galadriel's telepathic powers occurs when the Fellowship reaches Lothlorien. Galadriel's voice enters their heads as she probes the minds of each member. Afterwards, they discuss the phenomenon. Sam explains, "She seemed to be looking inside me and asking me what I would do if she gave me the chance of flying back home to the Shire, to a nice little hole with a bit of garden of my own." "That's funny," said Merry. "Almost exactly what I felt myself, only well, I don't think I'll say any more," he ended lamely. All of them, it seemed, had fared alike. Each had felt that he was offered a choice between a shadow full of fear that lay ahead and something that he greatly desired. Clear before his mind it lay, and to get it, he had only to turn aside from the road and leave the quest and the war against Sauron to others. "And it seemed to me too," said Gimli, "that my choice would remain secret and known only to myself." Notice that there is no mention of Celeborn nor any other elf trying to read the thoughts of the Fellowship. In addition, when the Fellowship arrives in Lothlorien, Celeborn does not even seem to be aware of what has befallen Gandalf. His telepathic powers appear limited. "Here there are 8, he said. 9 were to set out, so said the messages. But maybe there has been some change of counsel that we have not heard. Elrond is far away, and darkness gathers between us, and all this year the shadows have grown longer." "Nay, there was no change of counsel," said the Lady Galadriel, speaking for the first time. We can take from these examples that Galadriel appears to be more aware than Celeborn. Only Galadriel seeks to read the hearts and minds of the Fellowship. Celeborn appears unable to communicate with those who have yet to learn the skill themselves. So why is it that Galadriel can read the thoughts of those in the Fellowship and not Celeborn? Galadriel explains to Frodo, "Did not Gandalf tell you that the rings give power according to the measure of each possessor? You have perceived my thought more clearly than many that are accounted wise." So Galadriel reveals that her ability of mental communication is amplified by the ring she wears. Just like the Palantir, in order to wield the power effectively, the user of the ring needs a great strength of will. Even Aragorn found it a struggle to use the Palantir. Frodo asks Galadriel, "I am permitted to wear the one ring. Why cannot I see all the others and know the thoughts of those that wear them?" "You have not tried," she said. "Only thrice have you set the ring upon your finger since you knew what you possessed. Do not try. It would destroy you. Before you could use that power, you would need to become far stronger and to train your will to the domination of others. Yet even so, as ring-bearer and as one that has borne it on finger and seen that which is hidden, your sight is grown keener." A subtle detail to note here is that Galadriel knows how many times Frodo has put on the ring, as if she has the ability to view him from afar. Despite Frodo not being strong enough to read minds directly, there are subtle hints that Frodo possesses some latent telepathic abilities, which manifest as uncontrollable visions. One notable instance is when he sleeps in the house of Tom Bombadil and experiences vivid prophetic dreams. In the dead night, Frodo lay in a dream without light. Then he saw the young moon rising. Under its thin light, there loomed before him a black wall of rock, pierced by a dark arch like a great gate. It seemed to Frodo that he was lifted up, and passing over, he saw that the rock wall was a circle of hills, and that within it was a plain, and in the midst of the plain stood a pinnacle of stone, like a vast tower, but not made by hands. On its top stood the figure of a man. The moon as it rose seemed to hang for a moment above his head and glistened in his white hair as the wind stirred it. Up from the dark plain below came the crying of fell voices and the howling of many wolves. Suddenly a shadow, like the shape of great wings, passed across the moon. The figure lifted his arms and a light flashed from the staff that he wielded. A mighty eagle swept down and bore him away. The voices wailed and the wolves yammered. So while he does not communicate directly with Gandalf from afar nor read his thoughts, Frodo's heightened senses, amplified by the ring, allow him to perceive Gandalf's dramatic escape from Orthanc. We also see Galadriel attempt to use long-distance communication at the time she greets the Fellowship, when she is trying to read Gandalf's mind from afar. Gandalf the Grey set out with the company, but he did not pass the borders of this land. Now, tell us where he is, for I much desired to speak with him again. But I cannot see him from afar, unless he comes within the fences of Lothlorien. A grey mist is about him, and the ways of his feet and of his mind are hidden from me. It seems that Galadriel does not sense Gandalf's mind anywhere within Lorien, and is concerned that Gandalf's mind is hidden from her at this moment. it is important to understand what Gandalf, who possessed the elven ring, Narya, was experiencing during this time. Gandalf fell from the bridge of Khazad-dûm on the 15th of January in the year 3019 of the Third Age. The remaining members of the Fellowship fled Moria, arriving in Caras-Galadhon on the 17th. Gandalf's relentless pursuit of the Balrog through the darkness of Moria to the peaks of Zirak-Zigil lasted until the 23rd of January, where he finally slew the demon after 2 further days of battling. When the Fellowship reach Lothlorien, Galadriel is unable to detect Gandalf because his mind is hidden from her. It appears that at that moment, Gandalf is somewhere deep within Moria. It is only once Gandalf climbs to the top of Zirak-Zigil during his fight with the Balrog that his mind becomes once again visible to Galadriel. It is only at this point that Galadriel sends Gwaihir the Wing Lord to search for him. After being found on the mountain peak, Gandalf instructs Gwaihir, "Bear me to Lothlorien," to which the Great Eagle responds, "That indeed is the command of the Lady Galadriel, who sent me to look for you." This incident suggests that one crucial and logical aspect of long-range telepathy, a power enhanced by both the rings and the Palantiri, is the necessity of an unobstructed, elevated vantage point, much like cell phone reception. There are further examples that support this theory. But before we continue, I'd like to give a huge thank you to all of you wonderful people who have subscribed so far. I am so grateful to have passed 6,000 subscribers. For those of you who haven't subscribed, please do. I would love to get to 10,000 by the end of the year, and will endeavour to continue bringing out exciting new content for you to enjoy. Galadriel often uses her telepathic powers across long distances from where she resides in Caras-Galadhon, situated at the top of a hill amongst the great trees in Lothlorien. Caras-Galadhon is described as the highest point in the land. We already know that the Palantiri were also kept in places with a high vantage point, such as the towers of Orthanc, Minas Tirith, Amun-Sul, Minas Ithil, and of course Barad-dûr. The books give us more evidence of high vantage points boosting telepathic communication. A notable instance of Sauron's telepathic prowess occurs when he detects Frodo high upon the seeing seat at Amon Hen. Despite the distance, Frodo's presence is sensed, and he falls under the Dark Lord's scrutiny. And suddenly he felt the eye. There was an eye in the Dark Tower that did not sleep. He knew that it had become aware of his gaze. A fierce, eager will was there. It leaped towards him. Almost like a finger he felt it, searching for him. Very soon it would nail him down, know just exactly where he was. Amon Lor it touched. It glanced upon Tol Brandir. He threw himself from the seat, crouching, covering his head with his grey hood. He heard himself crying out, "Never, never." Or was it, "Verily, I come to you"? He could not tell. Then, as a flash from some other point of power, there came to his mind another thought. Take it off. Take it off. Fool, take it off. Take off the ring. We later discover, in the Two Towers, that the voice urging Frodo to take off the ring at Amon Hen is Gandalf's. After reuniting with Aragorn, Legolas and Gimli in Fangorn Forest, Gandalf reveals this crucial intervention and all but confirms the necessity of a high vantage point for long-range telepathic communication. The ring now has passed beyond my help, or the help of any of the company that set out from Rivendell. Very nearly it was revealed to the enemy, but it escaped. I had some part in that, for I sat in a high place, and I strove with the Dark Tower, and the shadow passed. Then I was weary, very weary, and I walked long in dark thought. A key detail to take away from this passage is Gandalf's statement, "For I sat in a high place." This detail is vital in understanding how he is able to telepathically connect with Frodo. Frodo too is in a high position, upon the seat of seeing on the summit of Amon Hen. And we have already witnessed Galadriel using her telepathic powers from afar, from where she resides in Caras-Galadhon. In addition, when Frodo is at Amon Hen, Gandalf has already been carried to Lorien by Gwaihir after his battle with the Balrog. Thus, he too is likely to be on the hill at Caras Galadhon during this critical moment. And consider the scene in the Two Towers, where Frodo is pursued by Shelob. In this desperate moment, Frodo seems to receive a message from Galadriel, who is somehow aware of his perilous situation high on the mountains of Mordor. It seemed to him that he saw a light in his mind, almost unbearably bright at first, as a sun ray to the eyes of one long hidden in a windowless pit. Then the light became colour, green, gold, silver, white. Far off, as in a little picture drawn by elven fingers, he saw the Lady Galadriel standing on the grass in Lorien, and gifts were in her hands. "And you, ring-bearer," he heard her say, "remote but clear, for you I have prepared this." This demonstrates that Galadriel, her powers amplified by her ring, is able to sense danger from afar, providing hope and guidance when needed most, as she urges Frodo to use the phial of Galadriel. But what about the other rings? It is not clear whether Sauron's ability to see Frodo on Amon Hen is due to his possession of the Palantir, one of the other rings of power, or just an innate telepathic ability of the lidless eye. But Frodo's mind is not the only one that Sauron tries to penetrate. Earlier in the book, Galadriel tells Frodo, "I say to you, Frodo, that even as I speak to you, I perceive the Dark Lord and know his mind, or all of his mind that concerns the elves, and he gropes ever to see me and my thought. But still, the door is closed." So Galadriel is keenly aware of Sauron's telepathic attempts to penetrate her mind, and also seems to perceive Sauron's mind in return. She explains that she possesses the power to shield her thoughts, protecting them from his prying gaze. Lastly, the books reveal other rings of power are also capable of granting telepathic abilities, as Frodo discovers just before he arrives in Rivendell. The riders seem to sit upon their great steeds like threatening statues upon a hill, dark and solid, while all the woods and land about them receded as if into a mist. Suddenly he knew in his heart that they were silently commanding him to wait. Then at once, fear and hatred awoke in him. It is the Nazgul, relentless in their pursuit of Frodo to the ford of the Bruinen, who wield telepathy to command him silently, beckoning him to surrender. So given the evidence we have discussed, it seems that the powers crafted into the Palantiri did perhaps inspire Sauron and Celebrimbor into imbuing similar powers into the Rings of Power, allowing them to act as mini Palantiri of their own. But the need for a high vantage point or clear line of sight is crucial in their effectiveness. The ring's ability to provide long-range telepathic communication to the ring-bearers proved vital at several points in their quest to destroy the ring. If you like the idea that Feanor contributed to the downfall of Sauron through his crafting of the Palantiri, please be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to join me for more journeys through Middle-earth. Thanks for listening.